So we're going to discuss this. And one thing by preview is that I want you to understand that if we identify an area as you're looking at this, listening to this, that you think you need to know more on, you need to reach for leadership above you to get your answers. If I say something that relates to, just in the way, I was used to doing it, that differs from what you're doing it, then you need to follow your leadership. They're the ones that are guiding you in a common cause, common direction, common system. And so I'm going to keep this pretty generic in a positive way, and so that we can make sure we cover the things that I would consider the areas where, if we were talking about a steam engine and a boiler, where steam would be leaking, you'd be losing power. Or in this example with internal combustion, we're talking about where you'd be losing horsepower. And so I'm going to start with a very simple premise. And that's that you're a business owner. And as such, and again, I don't know sometimes how some people look at what they're doing in WFG and TFA as running a business. You certainly should. Where you need to go in this business is going to take focus and discipline. We're going to talk about that several times today. And so with that, a very simple thought. Treat it like a business. It may sound simple, but I swear, some treat it like a hobby. Some still act as if they're employees, even though you're now, in a sense, the employer, or should be in mentality. You're certainly the entrepreneur. And in a business, you need your feet on the ground. It's fun to be excited. This isn't a game. Though we can have fun with it, but it's serious. What we do is serious business for the consumer. What it takes to get it done is serious business for you. Delivering and leadership for teammates who bring their dreams to you, right, and say, how can I make these come true? Well, that's pretty dang serious business too. And so when I say treat it like a business, I mean it from the consumer standpoint, from a personal standpoint, from a team leadership standpoint. It is a big deal. So with it, one of your efforts, and one of the things that's going to be a challenge, but you have to really strive to do it, is to keep your concentration. And keep your concentration on the right things. Some of you in my retreats, and I've laughed about this before, and talking to groups, there's a great little animated movie called Up, and in it there's a dog, and this dog, is all of a sudden gets distracted and says the word squirrel, and all of a sudden is just completely off track. And that would probably be a good analogy for a lot of people and their level of concentration in this business. Now you're about to go to a convention, most of us on this call, next month, and you're going to hear some things that'll distract, and so I'm going to try and help you. There's a bunch of stuff you're going to hear that's extraordinary and wonderful, but some of it's not going to work for the way you run your business, and you need to keep your concentration on the basics. And so with that thought in mind, you've got to stay well organized. Our whole goal is to be profitable and to keep this as simple and duplicatable as possible. And I mean, the real bottom line to this is running a business takes discipline, and self-discipline in particular. But your system has to be disciplined. Your leadership team that's helping you run the system needs to learn that same discipline. But you as a leader guiding a team, you've really got to stay on your game, or bring your A game, as I am challenging people nowadays. And so let's get into this a little bit. Now, we want to create a powerful culture in your business. Now, I want to introduce this concept by saying the culture is going to be combined of a couple of things. We're going to talk about both of them. But I want you to understand how much the culture helps you run your business in an energized and disciplined way. The culture is kind of inclusive of everybody that's in your office, everybody that's in your organization. Are you on the same page? Are you headed in the same direction? Are you trying to do the same things at the same time? When that happens, there's a great deal of power in your business that helps drive it and take it to excellence, you know, without you having to manage every little single thing. You know, in sports, you have teams that have winning traditions or a culture of winning. It's combined with the attitudes people have, the work ethic, the intensity. That's a powerful culture. And so let's talk about, and this is going to be a little bit simplistic, let's talk about the two things that make up a culture. For those of you that's review, I'm not going to apologize for reviewing it for you. We got to stay on top of this. Your team culture needs to be excellent in two areas, two parts. The first one is you got to maintain focus on the right things. Those basic right things, for those of you on that make up what I call the Giant Development Program, the teams that are part of that, know that I have been emphasizing this over and over and over again. I'm going to be relentless on it because I'm determined to help them create a powerful culture. I'm very, very involved in trying to help all of you on this call, on this webinar, develop a powerful culture. Well, if you're going to do that, focus is part of it, but focus on what? 4 things in particular: personal prospecting, personal recruiting, personal field training, and frontline leadership development. If you attend to those 4 things diligently and consistently, you don't get off into the management business. So many people come up, you know, through the ladder of promotions. They get to SMD, and oh my gosh, they start acting like employees again, or like they're working in some corporate culture instead of still being an entrepreneur, or as if SMD was the holy grail. SMD is barely a start. You can go broke from SMD also if you're not doing the right things, which means you're not focused on the right things. So time drifts by every day. You do a little paperwork. You make a few phone calls. You've got to be consistently personal prospecting. You say, yeah, but Rich, my team keeps me busy. And all. Look, I'm not interested in hearing any excuses. I'm watching big players, big team players. You know, people that are future giants, like an Eric Olson or a Penny Oy or many other names, Jeff Levitan that I could use. Levitan's really in the personal recruiting business. All the others, I love watching what I'm seeing right now in the company among the teams we've challenged, and how much more they're now personally prospecting and personally recruiting. Right? With that, you have people you've got to be out field training, fast starting, making those things happen, and you're paying a great deal of attention, of course, to your frontline leadership development. But if you're not doing 1, 2, 3, you're not getting much of 4. If you're not doing 1, you're not getting 2. If you're only doing 1 and 2 without 3, that's silly. You know, in other words, all 4 have got to be done consistently, over and over again. And when you are there, you will not believe how much better you feel about your business, how much more energy you have. That's what happens when you're meaningfully growing something. It's kind of like the difference of a store stuck in a back street, hoping somebody's going to walk down there and buy something, as opposed to a business that has a field force that gets out and talks to people and makes it happen. One, you can drive it and you can make your own success and control your destiny. The other one, you kind of got to get lucky. Well, shoot, I don't want you to rely on getting lucky, right, to make your business go where you want it to go, or to make your family financially independent. I guess you might as well be buying lottery tickets at that point. That's why I don't buy them. Don't believe in it. I'm not looking for something for nothing, and I'm not looking to win because I got lucky. I'm looking to win because we made it happen. I want you to have that same attitude. The second part of this is having what I call a hot environment. And that means speaking the higher law languages. I'll come back to the second part. Let's talk about a hot environment. I'm not talking about like people in a nightclub are hot. I'm not talking about that it's 100 degrees outside and that's hot, right? We're not talking about temperature, though frankly the room does warm up when people are excited. The hot environment I'm talking about is emotionally hot. And that's where it comes in with higher law languages. Now, what do I mean? For those of you who have been part of my retreats the last few months, I've been talking about the fact that the tool of our trade is our language, our voice. And I mean, if we had to pick a part of our body, it's our tongue. Our tongue and our speech is what will create the environment that's around us. The things that we say control our relationships. If we're kind, if we're positive, if we're enthusiastic, if we're encouraging, then we have a great environment around us, right? If we're negative or we're critical, right, or we're putting down people or quick to criticize in any form, then we create a cold environment around us, a negative environment. And so let's talk about the languages that cause the environment of your operation and your business to be hot. The first one I want to talk about is the language of helping people. You know, I want to challenge everybody on this call, and some of you it's your second and third challenge, but I want to challenge everybody on this call to speak the language of helping people everywhere you go with the business. If you're talking to a teammate, talk about how excited you are about the appointment you've just been on, the difference you're going to make. I'm going to be in the field tonight working with a couple that's very frustrated about what's going on with their family financially. They work real hard, but not getting where they want to go. And we prospected them. He's done some work for us. We first met him at church, but then he does some technology work for us. And we're sitting down with him and his wife, and we're going to go through everything they've got. I can't wait, because I know what we're going to do for them. We're going to give them a clear objectives. They're going to get excited about it. They're going to feel more like saving money. We're going to put their money in great places. We're going to protect the family better. We're going to give them better tax treatment on a bunch of the money they accumulate. This stuff fires me up. We are going to change their life. We will literally, by organizing them tonight, put millions of dollars in their future that they would not have if we weren't going to be there this evening at 7:30 in their home. Turns me on. It has for 33 years. And we're so much better at it now. This company is so much better than any company in North America at delivering quality across the board for the consumer. I'm jazzed. I'll be in Canada later this month. I'll be jacked up talking to people about it there. I'll be in different spots in the United States this month. I'll be jacked up talking to them about it there. I love helping people. I bet you do too. But you speak the language enough. So I've just been speaking to you in the language of helping people, talking about a particular client situation, talking about my anticipation of how much we are going to help them, how much I know we will help them, how much that's going to impact their life in a positive way. And so with this thought, I give homework assignments. So there's a homework assignment. I want you to put down in print, they can be just bullet point items that you're going to talk about. What are the 4, 5, 6, 7 things that fire you up the most about what we do for people? You know, I love, in the United States, the tax advantage of a life insurance contract. You know, I pay taxes. I do it all legally, but I don't like it. We pay too much of it, and they mismanage it too dramatically. You know, just chaps me. But the reality is I can build up money inside of an IUL or VUL contract and not have to pay taxes on it. Don't have to report nothing on it. Get to use it, right? And when I finally die, it converts all the cash and the insurance into estate tax-free and income tax-free to my heirs. I love this stuff, you know? And so that's one of the things I talk about. Well, what do you love about what we do for people? I think we should all love how we organize them. Where they're here, but they want to be over here financially, and we show them how to get there. That's another thing that turns me on. Get down 5, 6, 7 things on a list and get them in your memory so you're very familiar with them, so you can talk in a consistent, excited way. I don't want you to make a phone call, hold a meeting, teach a class, hold any kind of event or prospect without talking about how much we help people and how excited you are about it. The next language is the language of a better life. Everybody that's ever filled out an AMA has joined this company with a thought in mind that somehow, in some way, this is going to help them have a better life. I mean, so talk to people about that. So here's another homework. It's your second homework assignment. What are the 5 or 10 things that you're most excited about in the terms of how this is going to deliver a better life to you? When we first started, Cindy and I mean, we were excited about some simple things. We were excited about paying off a Visa card, being out of debt, right? And being able to get some couches in our front room. That was a better life for us. But there were other things. I mean, I was having to deal with all kinds of, I was working in the state of California, you know, and there are all kinds of stupid stuff I had to put up at work in the state bureaucracy, the politics and the backbiting, the backstabbing, and I wanted out of there. And I saw this business as maybe that would give me the chance to do that, to be in an environment where I was looking forward to the day instead of depressed by it. That was going to be a better life for us. You know, when Cindy and I got married, one of our goals was that we would be able to work side by side together, that we'd have our children around us, that they would never come home to an empty house and be what they call latchkey kids, that we were going to be around them, she would be able to be around them, I'd be able to be around them, but we'd have that kind of family control and time control and circumstance and situation control, and that would be a better life for us. You see, I'm very familiar with the things that turn me on about the opportunity, about what we do. And so can you speak fluently in the language of a better life? Can you speak fluently in the language of helping people? You have to be fluent. So what are those things you love about how we help people? What are those things that you're excited about in relation to this business bringing you a better life? How does this all relate to the system? This is the focus and the energy, all right? So this is what we're aiming the system at, the right things, helping everybody personally prospect, personally recruit, personally field train, and frontline leadership develop, right? But you've also got to create the fuel for this engine. So we know what we're aiming at, right? But this is the fuel for the rocket. The language of helping people, the language of a better life, and a third language, because there are 3 of them, is the language of building people. And so this is all about the compliments that you're going to pay people. So here's your third homework assignment. No, and I'm not going to give you a homework assignment on every page, but well, it may not be fair because you'll realize and identify things you know you need to work on. But the language of building people is going to be enhanced if you just get better at looking for things in people that you want to compliment. So I want you to go through an exercise. I want you to write down, third homework assignment, 10 compliments that you think you might commonly use around people. You might compliment somebody on their attitude. You should compliment people on a nice smile. You should compliment people on if they're working hard, if they're showing up for the meetings consistently. You compliment them for getting through their pre-license requirement. Compliment them on passing their test and praise them for it. You know, there's just lots of things. If you're standing in a line at Burger King and you're coming up to the counter, I want you to be looking at the person, and I want you to be thinking of some way you can praise them, some way you can compliment them. Hey, I'm watching the job you're doing. You know, Cindy and I flew into Atlanta here a couple of weeks ago, and we got in the line to get out of Hertz, and there were 2 lines, and our line went like twice as fast as the other line. When we got up there to the front, to the woman who was working that line, I said, you know what, before you help me, I want to compliment you on how fast you're processing people through here. You're 2 or 3 times faster than this person in the other thing. I bet you're the best employee they have here. And handed her my stuff, and she says, you know, I try and keep a good attitude while I'm doing it. I said, well, it shows, and good for you. And I asked her her name and complimented her and thanked her, and off we drove. You know, I'll probably never see that person again. It doesn't matter. You want to develop the habit of acknowledging people, of acknowledging good things about them. Even if they're having a tough day, acknowledge that and encourage them and tell them how much you appreciate the help, right? This is the kind of stuff that you need to build into habit, because this is what creates a hot environment. And a hot environment gives people courage and confidence. If you're less than that, if you're in a lukewarm or cold environment, people start feeling fear and doubt. The last 2 things you can run your business with. So to run it effectively, you've got to be hot. You need courage. You need confidence. You need excitement. You got to be speaking the higher law languages, but not by yourself. Your whole team needs to speak these higher law languages. That's the game. The system is driven by focus and emotion. All right? Focus and emotion. It's driven into the ground with negative emotion. It's driven into the sky with positive emotion. And the way you communicate that is through those three languages. So I'm serious. I don't want you to ever hold an event, a meeting, nothing, or just talk to an individual without using all three languages. In fact, your next phone call to somebody, I want you to try and figure out how you can speak those three languages in that conversation. And I want you to practice that in every conversation you have. All right. Good. Now, let's get down. Now that we're talking about fueling it and the focus, let's get more in the how-to. We got to run a simple, effective system to get where we want to go. Everybody in the company that has a clue agrees on that. People use different terminology, but the same fundamental things apply. And when you think about it, we only do 4 things. Now, obviously, this is a little simplistic again, but think about it. 1, we sell an opportunity. And 2, we sell financial service products. So we sell 2 things. But we do 2 other things. We build 2 things. We build producers and we build leaders. So we sell 2 things, opportunity and financial service products, and we build 2 things, producers and leaders. And so all our systems, right, are designed to do those 4 things, right? And you've got to make sure you're doing that effectively. You've got to make sure it's simple. The more complex you make it, the slower it will grow, assuming it grows at all. And so you've always got to beware of complexity. For years and years, actually decades, we've run a simple, effective system and moved a variety of products and securities and insurance through it, and of course have developed thousands of leaders. And so you can't tell me it doesn't work. So these are the 4 things. So let's take them one at a time. I'll actually turn my page as he turns the slide. So here we go. Let's talk about selling an opportunity. Does name tags look familiar? There's a flow to this process. So let's put this flow chart up there. Starts with prospect list, goes to contact, then to some form of a meeting. It could be a one-on-one, but it's some kind of, and you might call it a corporate overview or something else. I don't care what you call it. It's a meeting with somebody. Then there's a follow-up interview, and then you have a recruit, right? If they say no, you drop them down into the next system, but we'll talk about that where you talk about selling them financial service products. But let's go ahead. Prospect list, contact, BPM, follow-up interview, and you'll have a recruit. Let's talk about your horsepower upgrades in this flow. Again, no matter what you call your system, right, there can be horsepower upgrades you can make in it. It's just like an internal combustion engine. You have them made by Toyota, you have them made by Chevrolet, you have them made by Nissan, you have them made by Ferrari, right? And they have different performances. But you can take a low horsepower engine and you can tune it, and it gives you horsepower upgrades. You might do a twin turbocharging, right? You might redo the exhaust. There are other things you could do to that engine, upgrade the octane of the fuel. All of those things would increase the horsepower, right, and the performance of the machine itself. Well, this is a business machine, right? You recruit somebody. You've got to develop a prospect list with them. So let's talk about this first horsepower upgrade. Most of you, and I'm dead serious about this, are not making the prospect list effort with people that you ought to be making. If I hauled you into a court of law, could I convict you of doing a great job with prospect lists? For many of you, the answer would be no. You get a person, you hand them a memory jogger, a top 25 list, and tell them to go home and do it. And that's pretty much all you bring to the game. That's not the kind of focus that I'm looking for that runs this system, right, powerfully. You've got to get with them. You've got to make every effort to make sure they go through every daggone noun and adjective on that memory jogger. And one of the things that I've noticed, I was at a retreat, and I asked a big group, how many of you now make an effort to get your new recruits to do 100 names or more on a prospect list, and a bunch of people in the room, hundreds of people in the room, 2 people raise their hand. Well, that used to be standard operating procedure running this machine in this company. We drifted from excellence. Every prospect list should have a goal of 100 names. You know, you've got to ask yourself, if they have 100 names, can't put 100 names, have they been in the area long enough? Do they talk about, I don't mean 100 names they know personally super well. I mean, that's 15 or 20. But I'm talking about general relationships. I could go build a 100-name list actively prospecting in 2 or 3 weeks. Just meeting people, chatting with them, adding their name to a list, right? They would all be very general acquaintances. Someone who'd remember me when I called, but that's about it. But person who's lived in an area, neighbors, schoolmates, family, other friends, right, co-workers, all of that stuff makes a substantial list. Start working to get these lists over 100 names. Another thing you need to focus on in prospect list is it's got to be maintained. It's not something you empty. It's something you keep full, right? And so I wish I could take more time on that. But in developing a prospect list, one of the mistakes, and I'm going to make this point here, and then reference it the rest of the webinar. You've got to use what I call lower law and higher law to be effective in the system. Well, let's use that specifically in the terms of getting a prospect list. And so let's say I've been thorough in going over the how-to of getting a prospect, which is a lower law. Here's the memory jogger. Here's the top 25. Here's the quality of person we're looking for. And I've gone through those basics. But that doesn't excite the guy. The person now might be sitting there starting to feel doubt. Oh, I'm going to have to talk to these people. I'm not sure what to say to them. And all of a sudden, right now, we have a cold environment settling in. And I've got to heat up the environment for this person. That means I've got to stimulate them emotionally. And so I would say, you know what, as you're working on this list, as you're putting these names down, I want you to understand in the average situation, we put hundreds of thousands, and in many cases, millions of dollars in their future. Without them going to get extra work or increasing their income, we're taking what they've already got, we're reorganizing it, we're raising the rate of return, we're improving the tax situation, we're just getting them the savings habits that they need, that they can really win. They can get to the promised land. And that's going to happen in their lives because you wrote their name down the list. You may not think it's nothing, but somebody wrote my name down the list, came over and taught me these principles. I started saving money, then more money, then more money. Then he invited me down to the list and hear about the company. I joined the company, started part-time, started making more money, saved that, saved some more, saved some that. And you know what? In 3 years from the time that he came by my house, we had over $1 million saved. Unbelievable. We were cash millionaires because a part-time guy, a high school music teacher who only worked in the business for 8 months, came over, taught us some stuff, changed our lives forever. And so I want you to be excited about putting these names down and what we can do for them. Now, what was I speaking just then? I was speaking the language of helping people, a higher law language. Then I would shift gears. Now, some of these people that you're writing down are going to become your business partners, right? They're going to go into business with you. Just like I went into business, the guy introduced me, right, whose prospect list, right, that I was on. You know, and I made him some overrides and good things going on. Now, he didn't stay the course. I rolled up to the next guy, right? I was his exchange leg, and then I rolled up to the next guy, and that guy and I founded this company that we're all a part of right now. You know, and wow, all because this guy put me down on a prospect list. You are going to change lives with this opportunity. Wondrous things, you're going to give a chance for wondrous things to happen in their lives. We're going to teach them what to do financially, help them that way. We're going to offer them opportunity. But even if they don't, they'll know people who do. And so this list will lead you to other names. It'll lead you to a person, will lead you to a person, who will lead you to a person. Remarkable things can happen. Now, what am I talking there? The language of a better life. Think what's going to mean to earn some extra override, save some real money, get out of debt, put yourself in that situation. All because you put some more names down on this list. Now, when I've spoken those two languages to him or her, are they more likely to write names down than if I just gave them the how-to, the lower law? You bet. My job is to inspire in leadership. And in order to inspire, that means I've got to get them to feel emotions that get them thinking about, I want a better life, and I'm going to do something about it. People need help, and I'm going to help them. We need to be inspiring those thoughts. Man, I'm going to have to change some. I'm going to have to reorganize my time. I need to sit down with my sweetheart. We need to talk about this and get serious about it. These are the thoughts you stimulate with these emotions. If you're not speaking those languages, you're not stimulating those emotions, and therefore people aren't having those thoughts. And they got to have those thoughts for their lives to change. Boy, I hope you listen to that and you get it. All right, so that's the kind of thing when I say prospect list effort that I'm talking about. Now, if that's different from what you do, and if maybe it's different a lot, then we just found a horsepower upgrade for your system. All right, that's exciting. Now, the next point I want to make about market quality is that the three big things are age, marital status, and income. If you get into weak areas, too young, or single, right, or low income, your machine will sputter because you're not staying in a strong market. You're with lower identity people who take much longer, right, to get into a leadership frame of mind. And now I'm not saying they all got to be making $150,000. I mean, use some common sense here. But if you drift, hey, there's single people that do well in this business, of course. But the reality is, majority of our leadership, and majority of our most effective leadership, they got teamwork in the home. That means they got a pretty good marriage. I watch it over and over again. So the majority of folks need to be in that market. They're the ones who also need our products the most. So you don't break down the system because we want internal consumption. We want the people joining to be buying also. That's what helps finance your growth operation. And so market quality is a big deal. If you're not paying attention to that, we just did a horsepower upgrade if you'll get a clue and get into the right market. There you go. A lot more I could talk about it, but time is passing. The next thing is helping people with contact. And I'm telling you, there are three fundamental ways to help people with contact. One, you get on the phone or go out with them and help them talk to people. Let them learn by watching. All right? Two, you're going to train them. You're going to teach them. Right? You're going to sit them in a class and talk to them about the difference between prospecting and inviting, right, and presenting. Many of you make the mistake of combining all three of those things and screw yourself up. Prospecting is just saying hi to somebody, getting to know them a little bit, and asking for a business card or a number so you can talk to them again sometime. That's all prospecting is. It's not talking to them about the company. Inviting is the next conversation where you end up talking about what each other do, and then you end up saying it's a great thing, and if they show interest, then you move to the third phase, which is getting together for a presentation, right? But you've got to help people understand that, and then the third way you help them is by drilling them. In other words, having them practice in a classroom setting, right? You look everywhere else in life, people practice, practice, practice. All sports teams practice. We've got to practice too. So what are the three things? You actually physically help them make contact. Two, you train them on how to make contact so they can understand it, and you drill them so they can get used to using their tongue, right, and the language. You've got to make sure their thinking gets organized in relation to this stuff. So the next thing is having high energy, focused BPMs. That means, again, what does that mean? You're upbeat, right? You're positive. You're talking about how much you're helping people. You're talking about the better life that we can have. You're complimenting the people around you. You're focused on what you're doing. This is a time to bring new people into introduce them to the company and get them into the process. The BPMs have got to be high energy. Your best people doing them. Somebody who's making some money and is on the move, is excited about being there, excited about being a part of this. People keep their focus during the meetings, not distracting. They sit in. They're not saying dumb stuff. Right? Anyway, there's a lot we can talk about there. Again, that's my 6-hour version. But you've got to have high-energy focused BPMs, right? And this is going to make it go. And then you've got to have intense, urgent follow-up. All right? So make sure you're making the right effort with your prospect list. You're staying in the right market. Your focus is 95% in the right market. You're helping with contact, those three ways. You're having high-energy focused BPMs. Everybody speaking the language. Everybody there on time or early. Everybody knowing that they're contributing. They're not in the classroom. They're in the gathering area, where the environment's being created. And then you've got to be in a hurry on your follow-up. Your interviews should be set after a BPM within 24 to 48 hours, and it should be done during the day. Now, I want to throw out at you that we kept that consistently in 24 to 48 hours with 98 to 99% of our interviews, and we did them, again, at the same ratio during the day. And the reason we did is we told people we wanted them to, and we told them why. When I said we wanted to see them in 24 to 48 hours, I told them because of common sense, because we wanted the impressions they had to be clear in their mind, the questions they had to be clear in their mind, and we wanted our impressions of them to be clear in their mind. That's why we wanted to see them within 24 to 48 hours. When we wanted to see them during the day, we said we acknowledged they probably worked during the day, but we could figure out something in the morning or around lunch or in the afternoon, because our nights are taken up with doing this presentation a couple times a week, field training, and the rest is for church and family, probably just like them. And that's why we needed to see them during the day, and we could work out something. Is morning or afternoon best for you? This is how that happens. And this is how but you've got to do that within 24 to 40 hours. If you let time go by, people aren't showing up. They fade out. They get cold. The warmth they felt in the environment dissipates. They're back at work. They're back with their kind of mundane, average, and ordinary, mostly employee environments. And that does not keep them energized. And all of a sudden, doubt, fear, and apathy come back into the game. So your follow-up has to be urgent while they're still warm enough to take action. This is a big deal. If you do that, you've just done a major horsepower upgrade in your recruiting. All right, let's look at the next one, by the way. Last thing. The faster you want it to run, the more focused you must be in these areas. Good. Next, we sell financial service products. Now, you love that shirt. You can't scare me. I sell insurance. All right, I have a funny story about that in a second. All right, let's look at the flow. The first two are just the same as the previous, prospect list and contact. And really, it's very much the same. You then come with two meetings. Instead of it being a BPM and a follow-up interview, it's a first presentation and a close. But we add to that referrals. Just the fact that you would focus more on referrals on on your sales process would be a horsepower upgrade, because a bunch of you are not doing any kind of a job in that. You ought to reference some of my earlier webinars where I talk about that if you're still in the dark. But let's look at horsepower upgrades. First one. Prospect list and contact, same as we discussed in selling an opportunity. Right, next. You've got to have more focused field training and more focused trainers. One of the ways we did this is we constantly monitored who was out with who. We matched up people, right? Also, trainers had to come in and interview with me on a regular basis as their SMD, and I made them give me the first presentation and then discuss the close process and how to get referrals. I wanted to know they were staying on top of their game, that one, they had a game, and two, they were staying on top of it. And so that was a greater focus. How many of you are interviewing your field trainers? How many of you make them accountable like that? Well, if you're not doing it, do it. It will increase your horsepower and make your trainers sharper, and will increase their focus. Next, you've got to do lots of things. When it comes to the language of helping people, you've got to show people what you're doing in the marketplace constantly, your team. Look how much we put in their future. We put $3.8 million in their future. Man, we moved them from 6 where they're averaging 12 now. I mean, stuff like that. You're able to tell all these stories. We increased coverage from $250,000 to $500,000 on the spouse for less money. I love this stuff, man. Look how much we help people. Our company is so good at this stuff. You notice I drop into the language helping people so quickly. But that's how you increase conviction. And the number one thing in selling is conviction. People feel it if you have it, and they feel it if you don't. Right? And so you've got to always be selling how good this company is, how good our broker-dealer is, how strong all our products and services are. We are truly the kick-butt company in North America in financial services. And we go help people. The rest of the industry won't help on top of it all. Next, the point of edification. A field trainer has a completely different experience when they're in a home field training somebody in their market if the trainee has edified that person to the people before they got there. And then again, while they're sitting there right at the beginning. Edify. If your people aren't doing a good job edifying, we just found a horsepower upgrade. If you aren't working hard at increasing the conviction among your teammates, we found another horsepower upgrade. All right? All this stuff really adds up. It'd be nice for you to go from 150 horsepower to 500 horsepower. Trust me, driving's a lot more fun in this business at 500 horses. Woo! You know, I was just looking at a car recently, and it was 616 horsepower. And I took a test drive in it, and I thought I was riding a rocket. Interesting experience. I like doing that once in a while. It reminds me how I want our system to run. Another thing in this area, when we're selling product, is make sure your team has a standardized presentation. And it's a solid one. Sometimes you got to work pretty hard together to agree on a standardized presentation. But if all of you are doing a different thing in an organization, you're going to struggle because everybody's hearing different stuff in advance, or you got to be defensive. Now, some people get their egos all bunched up on this one. I want to do it the way I want to do it. And there are a lot of good ways to do a presentation, and standardizing it is a big deal for duplication. If you don't have standardized presentation in your organization, you're losing horsepower. Right? You've got to drill for skill, just like we talked about on the other stuff. And the leaders need to review it. And so that's back to the point I made before where I talk about more focused field trainers. All right, next thing, you've got to create a referral culture. Boy, do I wish I had a chance to go through a whole thing on referrals. But again, that's a 6-hour training. Not the referral one, but all this combined. And the main mistake I see people making referrals, one, is not getting them. The second mistake I see them make is that they don't prepare people. They kind of spring it on them at the end in the second presentation when they should have mentioned it like 20 or 25 times in different ways by the time they get to that point in the second presentation. So someone is so prepared, they so understand why they're going to give referrals and how important it is because of how much we help people and how they want their friends to get this kind of help too. All that kind of stuff. You've got to create a referral culture. You do it, sales increase. Persistency, the quality of your net points, your quality of business will increase. Right? You'll stay in a stronger market, have lots more places to go. Why would you not create a referral culture? If you don't know how to do one, will you please talk to leadership until you figure it out? If you talk to 20 leaders between you and me, and they don't know, we'll get them all on a phone. I'll teach you all at the same time. Next thing, there is a funny story that I was in a BPM once, and all of a sudden from down the hallway, and this is about 20 minutes into the BPM, I hear a class chanting at the top of their lungs, "We sell insurance. We sell insurance," which did not, how would I say it, enhance the environment in the BPM. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "We have some people having a stupid attack." And I went down the hallway, stuck my head in there, gave the killer eye to the guy who was doing the class, said I'd talk to him afterwards, and said to them encouragingly, "Will you please shut up?" All right? But we do sell insurance. We sell investments too. I love our stuff because of how much, dare you guess, it helps people. And so I don't really care if you chant every day 3 times, but they did, and it was one of the funnier things after it happened, not while it was happening, but after it happened that I'd ever experienced during a BPM. It was the only time it ever happened. But it's true, and the trainer was making a good point. That is one of the things we do, right? So get used to it. Admit it. You're in the sales business. Nothing wrong with that because we're bringing such good the people with both opportunity and our products. Those are the two things we sell. We also build two things. The other thing, first thing we build is we got to build producers. That's a test center. That's everybody taking their test right there. Look, that proves your team is not licensing enough people. There's no one in the test center. What's wrong with you? Slap yourself. We'll train you on that later. Let's look at the process for building a producer. You've got a new recruit. You've got to field train them. And, now most of us have pre-license requirements. Not everybody does. And you ought to fall on your knees and thank God if you don't have one. California, we have 52 hours, or 32 if you're not getting the disability or health side of it. But anyway, so we got field training. You've got to get through the pre-license requirement, which is about as exciting as watching paint dry or rocks grow, right? And then you've got to get them through the licensing exam, and now you have a producer, right? Someone who's trained and licensed and can get out and do this business from a product standpoint on their own. You see, we've got to be able to make money, right, in this business in order to stick around it. You know what? If someone makes just $1,000 in commissions, they stick around a long time. But there's another point you've got to understand too, is that we've got to move this thing quick. I'll come back to that. Let's talk about horsepower upgrades and building producers. One, get more recruits, right? All right, but you still got to get them through this process. But a lot of you will build more producers. You just have more people joining your team, right? And that's a pretty simple thing to say to you. And you got to go back to the first part of our process, right, to get more recruits with personal prospecting, personal recruiting, etc. But let's continue. I want you to hurry up. I want you to have more urgency with people. You've got to, if it's just you and another person, you've got to have more urgency. If you set a follow-up interview and you don't have anybody else for 3 hours, don't sit for 3 hours in a follow-up interview. If you're in a home, you've only got one appointment, right? Don't sit there for hours and hours, right, just because you can. I want you to hurry up. I want you to be quick and thorough about things, but I want you to have urgency. And I want you, because that's contagious, just like the lack of urgency is contagious. I want you to have urgency about field training people, urgency about how, and helping them have urgency about getting through the pre-license requirement. You can do it. Get in. Understand, most people think like employees. I don't want to work after I've done my 9 to 5. Weekends, that's my day off. You've got to help people say, no, you got to take the nights. You got to take, this is what it takes to be entrepreneurial. But then you're back to the language, higher law languages, inspiring them with how much we help people, how much better life is out in front of them. That's what gives them more urgency. Don't procrastinate this better life. Don't procrastinate being out of debt. Don't procrastinate having real savings. Don't procrastinate peace of mind and control of your time, right? Your AMA to licensing, you need to do everything you can to keep everybody less than 60 days. The drop-off in failure of a new recruit not doing anything once you're past 60 days is so dramatic, it would scare you to hear the statistic. When you've gone 3 months, it's even more dramatic. 4 months, 6 months, it's a disaster. It's like you've just recruited them for nothing. Your goal is to get everybody licensed in less than 60 days, in field training and licensed in 60 days. I think if I'm going to pick one, whether they're going to study or field train, I'd want them to field train because that's going to make it more real, make them money. But I'm doing everything I can, getting them to do both. I wish I had 22 field training appointments with the new recruit, but the odds are you've got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. You're doing everything you can to help them make those appointments and get those appointments. So all their hours aren't taken. They need to stop watching TV, start throwing their hours at getting ready to take an exam and pass it, all right, and so that you get them where you want to get them, all right? But hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Increase the accountability, too. This is another horsepower upgrade, all right? Increase accountability, and that means you've got to increase communication during the pre-license phase. I can't believe that we get somebody and then we don't talk to them. Have I made the mistake? Absolutely. Right? And it's such a dumb mistake. If you just got increased communication during the pre-license phase from this slide, right, from this overview here, that would be a substantial horsepower upgrade. You've got to be communicating with them, encouraging them, because some of the stuff is just flat out dull, coma-inducing boring, right? Grinding through some of this stuff. Or they start thinking, oh, the business is this stuff, and they forget that they're out to help people, and they get lost in terminology or concept of stuff that the state requires them to go through, right? So you've got to increase accountability for your leaders to be doing this with urgency, right? And getting licensed in, right, AMA to licensing in 60 days. Increase accountability in your leadership team. Increase accountability with the new people over what they're doing. Okay. And increase communication during the pre-license phase. Next, you've got to increase recognition for positive activity during this stretch. This is where we lose them, folks. Right between new recruit and producer. This is Death Valley. And you've got to do everything you can to get them through there, right? Because boredom gets them, distraction gets them, right? A lot of this kind of stuff, urgency, communication, hold them accountable, recognize them. If they went from 4 hours to 12 hours this week, make a big deal out of good for you. Let's go for 15 hours, let's go, let's go, let's go. You got to keep them on track. Got to keep encouraging them. Got to talk to them. Don't make a pest of yourself, right, by just grinding on them. Encourage them. Let them know you're thinking about them. Appreciate them. You're moving forward on that stuff. You can do it. What's getting in the way? And help them to solution. All right. I want you to understand your people have got to be able to make money, right? And that means they got to turn into a producer. And this is the process for doing it. As you look at each one of these 3 flow charts we've shown you, you can identify in the future. If you're struggling, you don't feel like you have the horsepower you ought to have, go back through these flow charts, figure out where are you and your team dropping the ball, or what areas are you dropping the ball. Now let's take the last one about building leaders. Now here's our flow chart for this. As we put together teams and we need leaders, the first and most important thing, because it's the first, but it's also everything else we build on, is the quality of the personal relationships that you have with people. Bottom line, you've got to have trust relationships in order for people to stick around. Nothing runs them off faster, or should run them off faster, than them wondering if they can trust you. Are you really the kind of person who can be trusted? So your personal relationship with them is key. On that, and in the process of building that relationship, you're going to identify the gifts and strengths of these people. Then you're going to start instructing them. Now, the reason you identify gifts and strengths is so you can talk to them about it. These are the things you'll be complimenting them on, praising them on. That's what lifts them up. That's what gets them to start changing how they look at themselves. Everybody's super aware of their weaknesses. Confident people are aware of their gifts and strengths. In order to build confidence, you got to increase people's awareness of their gifts and strengths, and that they're a big deal, and that you see them, and that you appreciate them for it, right? And now as you instruct them on everything, lower law and higher law stuff, there'll be times you challenge them, and as they respond to those challenges and raise performance, their identity changes. They start looking at themselves differently. How much differently do you think I look at myself now, 33 years into this business, than 33 years ago working at San Jose State, hardly having 2 nickels together, living in a little rented townhouse with my new wife, having $300 in savings? Man, I look at myself just a little differently. I speak to people just a little differently. I have a different level of confidence and belief. Well, that's the process we're helping people go through that's reflected in this flow chart. So are you not identifying people's gifts and strengths? Let's go through these things on our horsepower upgrades. We already talked about this. Quality, trust, relationships. Now, you don't feel like you've got enough of that? Well, start working on that. Spend a little more time talking personally with people. Open up to them. Really get to know them, their lives, their loves, their passions, right? Their dreams. Next one. Again, focus on strengths, not weakness. If you know, it's interesting. Every once in a while I'll talk to leaders, and they'll start telling me about the leaders that report to them, and they describe them in terms of what their shortcomings are. Now, what does that tell me? It tells me they're focused on their weaknesses, not their strengths. Well, you can't build a person focused on weakness. You build them focused on their strengths. You know, and so, excuse me, this is such a big deal. I wish I could take more time on it. But I've emphasized these things certainly in the past. Build on their good things. Let them know that's what you feel about them. That's why I gave you the homework assignment, the 10 compliments. Next one, you become what you read. You become what you watch. You become what you listen to. And so if you want to change, right, if you want horsepower upgrades in your people, you want them to change, will you please make sure they're reading books to get them to think and challenge them? Make sure they're watching good things. They're just not watching 30 Rock or some dumb thing like that. Let's have them move it forward on something that's going to edify them, that's going to get them, again, thinking those thoughts that cause identity to change. I want to be somebody. I want to change my life. I want to do something special. And I think this is the place to do it. Have them listen to good things in their car, right? There are good CDs that they can be listening to from leaders. The company produces stuff, right? You can get audios of these webinars. There are lots of stuff that stimulates thinking that a lot of our leaders have done. Companies working real hard right now to increase the training library. And we're excited about that. Because once again, you become what you read, watch, and listen to. So if you aren't trying to influence what your team reads, watches, and listens to, or if you aren't paying attention to what you read, watch, and listen to, then I just identified a major horsepower upgrade. Let's talk about the next one. Teach fundamentals over and over. Right? That's something we dropped the ball on. What people, you know, now you're going to have some people roll their eyes because you're going to be talking about it again. That doesn't bother me. I teach it over and over and over. And look where it's gotten us. Right? Stay on the fundamentals. The great coaches stay on the fundamentals. All right? That's the key. Every once in a while there's a trick play, but they practice that over and over again too. Right? And so, but it's the fundamentals that win the games. Next, unless we're challenged, we don't grow. And you got to learn how to challenge. But by the way, if you don't have a relationship or have people's, you know, their real respect, your challenges will actually probably annoy them. They know you care about them. They know you know your stuff. Those challenges will have great power in their lives. My life has grown and moved from challenge to challenge. And that's a powerful thing. One day you've got to learn to challenge yourself. But in the development of leaders, you've got to challenge them with regularity. You don't challenge them every time you talk to them, right? But you challenge them consistently. And I want you to understand your identity controls your destiny. It'll control it on a golf course. It'll control it in business. It'll control it in your marriage. It controls it in every area of your life, how you look at yourself. And our job is to improve how people look at themselves, because that's what's going to control their destiny. All right. The sum up thought on this one is leaders are made, not born. You build them. You know, if you meet somebody that's already got a lot of leadership ability, odds are they grew up in a family where a lot of this stuff was done and done effectively, and so they had more of that in them. All right, but leaders can be made and overwhelmingly have to be. And certainly they can be improved. All right, and none of that's about being born with it. So don't fall into that trap when you look at yourself, and don't fall in that trap when you look at other people. Right, it's our job to make them into leaders. All right, good. This has been fun to go over, and it's a big deal. And I hope you have a chance to review some of the things we talked about there. There are 4 prominent things we do, right? We sell 2 things and we build 2 things. And there's a flow and a process in your system, no matter what system you're running, for all 4. We went through good horsepower grades for each one, and I'm excited to have covered it. I can't believe the hour's gone. Our next webinar is going to be, as is tradition, we must have been doing this 3 years, because I think this is the 3rd one I've done about conventions. is preparation for the convention and moving your team to major events. Right? 2013 Convention of Champions. Boy, the biggest one we've ever had, and frankly, I believe the best designed one we've ever had. I spent good time on the phone with people that are brainstorming it and working on it, and I like what I hear. And so our next webinar will be July 10th, Wednesday, July 10th, 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 Mountain, 11 Central, 12 Eastern, and we won't cross the ocean. So that's our game. Thanks for being a part of this. I appreciate you. I hope you found some horsepower upgrades that will change your life and your business and increase your profitability. All right, you deserve it.